Heads rolled and alien blood splattered the walls as Caleb Russell carved through the Bajoran guards, leaving maimed corpses strewn about the dim corridors. A 35-year-old male and lethal operative of the Terran Special Operations Command, Caleb infiltrated the alien military base on planet Bajor, his neural implants accelerating his relentless attack. His mission, steal Bajoran intel on their imminent invasion of human space, or watch billions die. Slaughtering his way to the command center, Caleb cornered Mizar, a high-ranking enemy officer. "Talk, before I spill your guts all over this room," Caleb growled, slamming Mizar into the wall, forearm crushing his throat. "What's your invasion plan?" Mizar sputtered and writhed, Caleb's grip tightening. A virus, it targets human nervous systems. Paralysis, then death." Caleb's blood ran cold. "When?" "2 rotations. The weapon. It will spread on your Earth, wipe you out completely." "Say biological attack. 2 days to stop it." Heart pounding, Caleb rendered Mizar unconscious, then hefted the limp alien over his shoulder. Alarms began wailing, a sign his raid was detected. Caleb bolted through the blood-soaked halls, Mizar in tow, determined to get this intel back to Earth. Because if he didn't warn them in time, humanity was doomed. The death toll would be unimaginable if Bajor unleashed this bioweapon. Billions dead, human civilization in ruins. Unless Caleb could extract this prisoner and sound the alarm, his species faced total annihilation within 48 hours. As he sprinted for the exit, squads of Bajoran soldiers converged on his position, plasma blasts scorching the walls. No choice. He had to get out, had to save his people. Failure meant extinction. Ignoring the hail of enemy fire, Caleb charged through the base perimeter, eyes locked on his getaway ship, prisoner bouncing limply on his shoulder. The human race was out of time. This was it. Run or die. Plasma blasts scorched the walls of the dimly lit Bajoran corridors. The air reeked of blood and burnt flesh. Caleb sprinted towards the exit, unconscious Mizar slung over his shoulder. Bajoran guards poured out from every direction. Caleb swung his plasma rifle up. Cyan bolts spat from the muzzle, vaporizing guards with pinpoint accuracy. Charred corpses slumped to the ground. Caleb didn't break stride. More guards. His wrist-mounted mini-missile launcher coughed. Micro-rockets streaked down the corridor, detonating in a chain of explosions. Fire and smoke filled the space. Bajoran bodies flew, dismembered. Alarms wailed. Caleb burst into the night. "Tirsoc 1, this is Caleb. I've got the package and I'm at the extraction point, requesting immediate evac over." Caleb barked into his comm. Plasma blasts sizzled by his head. "Copy that, Caleb. We're inbound, 30 seconds out. Danger close," a voice crackled back. It was Jack Hawkins, Caleb's longtime friend and squadmate. More Bajorans rushed out of the base. Caleb ducked behind a low wall, laying down suppressing fire. His plasma rifle hissed and spat, dropping aliens left and right. The whine of engines filled the air. A sleek black dropship materialized above, active camo disengaging. The side door slid open, revealing Jack and Mike Thompson, the team's pilot. Jack opened up on the Bajorans with the ship's mounted plasma cannon. Blue bolts stitched the ground, forcing the guards to scatter. "Get in," Mike yelled. Caleb leapt into the open troop bay, Mizar still draped over his shoulder. The dropship lifted off, cloak re-engaging. It vanished into the night sky. In the troop bay, Caleb dropped Mizar roughly on the deck. He secured the dazed Bajoran in a holding cell. "What's the deal with this guy?" Jack asked, gesturing to their prisoner. "I'll explain in a minute. Mike, get us the hell out of here." Caleb called up to the cockpit. He felt the ship accelerate, leaving Bajor behind. Caleb turned to Jack, face grim. "The Bajorans are planning a biological attack on Earth. Some kind of virus that targets human nervous systems. It'll be an extinction-level event if they deploy it." Jack's face paled. "Shit, how long do we have?" 2 days. Mizar here says the weapon is being cooked up in a lab on Derna, one of Bajor's moons. We've got to take that place out. Stop them before they can launch this thing. My thoughts exactly. Let me get on the horn with HQ, see if we can get the green light for a strike. Caleb strode over to the comm station. He punched in the encrypted code for TSOC headquarters. The screen flickered, and a stern-faced man in a crisp uniform appeared. "Report, Operative Russell," the man said curtly. "Sir, I've extracted the Bajoran officer. He's provided actionable intel on an imminent biological attack against Earth. The weapon is a virus that will be fatal to humans and is being developed in a research facility on Bajor's moon, Derna. I'm requesting permission to lead a strike team to neutralize the facility and any samples of the virus." The man frowned, shaking his head. "Negative, Operative Russell. The risk of the virus falling into the wrong hands during such an operation is too high. Your orders are to return to Earth immediately with the prisoner for further interrogation. We'll take it from there. Understood?" Caleb's grip tightened on the edge of the console, knuckles white. He forced himself to take a breath before responding. "Yes, sir, understood. Russell out." Caleb slammed his fist on the console, cutting the transmission. He whirled to face Jack, eyes blazing with frustration. "Those fucking pencil pushers. They're going to get us all killed. We can't just sit on our hands and hope for the best. Not with something like this." Jack put a hand on Caleb's shoulder. "Easy, man, we've got our orders. We'll let the eggheads at HQ figure out the next move." Caleb shrugged off Jack's hand, mind racing. Like hell he was going to let some rear echelon types dictate the fate of humanity. The Derna facility had to be destroyed, no matter the cost. And if TSOC Command wasn't going to step up, then it was on him to get the job done. Orders be damned. He'd saved the world before, and he'd do it again, even if it meant defying a direct command. The stakes were too high. Caleb's resolve hardened. One way or another, that moon base was going up in flames. And he knew just how to make it happen. Caleb paced the troop bay, mind racing. He had to act fast before the Bajorans unleashed their doomsday virus on Earth. But he couldn't do it alone, not this time. He needed help from someone he could trust, someone with the right connections and resources. He stepped into the comm room and locked the door, ensuring privacy. His fingers danced across the console, inputting a secure frequency known only to a select few. The screen flickered to life, and a grizzled face appeared. Colonel John Briggs, Caleb's mentor and former commanding officer. "Caleb, I was wondering when you'd call," Briggs said, a hint of a smile on his weathered features. "Colonel, I need your help. The Bajorans are planning to release a lethal virus on Earth. I have to stop them, but TSOC Command won't sanction a mission." Briggs leaned forward, brow furrowed. "Tell me everything." Caleb laid out the situation, the urgency in his voice palpable. Briggs listened intently, his expression grave. "I'll do what I can, Caleb. I still have some contacts in the intelligence community. I'll see if I can dig up any more intel on this Derna facility. In the meantime, I can arrange for some off-the-books equipment to be delivered to the Ceres safe house. What do you need?" Caleb rattled off a list of gear, including specialized weapons, explosives, and infiltration tools. Briggs nodded, making mental notes. "I'll ensure it's there when you arrive. Anything else?" "Just your support, Colonel. I'm going to need it." Briggs smiled, his eyes hardening with determination. "You've got it, son. Go give 'em hell." The screen went dark, and Caleb let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. With Briggs in his corner, he felt a renewed sense of confidence. He strode back into the troop bay, ready to brief his team on the change of plans. Suddenly an alarm blared through the ship. Caleb's head snapped towards the holding cell. It was empty, the door hanging open. Mizar was gone. "Fuck!" Caleb snarled, drawing his sidearm. He sprinted towards the cockpit, Jack close behind. They found Mizar hunched over the comm station, his cybernetic arm interfaced with the console. The Bajoran's eyes widened as Caleb and Jack burst in, weapons trained on him. "Step away from the console now," Caleb barked. Mizar smirked, his mechanical fingers still dancing across the controls. "Too late, human. I've already sent a distress signal to my people. They'll be tracking this ship now." Caleb lunged forward, grabbing Mizar by the collar and slamming him against the bulkhead. Jack kept his gun leveled at the Bajoran's head. "What the hell is going on back there?" Mike called from the pilot's seat. "Our guest tried to sell us out," Caleb growled, tightening his grip on Mizar's throat. "Change of plans, Mike. Set a course for Ceres, maximum burn. We need to get to the safe house and regroup." "You got it, boss." Caleb dragged Mizar back to the holding cell, Jack covering them. He tossed the Bajoran inside, then activated the energy barrier, sealing him in. "That little stunt just cost you any chance of a comfortable interrogation," Caleb said, his voice low and menacing. "When we get to Ceres, you and I are going to have a long, painful chat." Mizar glared defiantly but said nothing. Caleb turned to Jack, his expression grim. "Get on the horn and monitor Bajoran fleet chatter. I want to know the second they pick up our trail." Jack nodded, heading back to the comm station. Caleb stared out the viewport, watching the stars streak by as the ship hurtled toward Ceres. They were in a race against time now, with the fate of Earth hanging in the balance. As they approached the asteroid colony, Jack's voice crackled over the intercom. "Caleb, you better get up here. I'm picking up a transmission from the Bajoran fleet. They're closing in on our position." Caleb's jaw tightened. The net was tightening and they were running out of time. They had to get to the safe house, gear up, and extract whatever additional information they could from Mizar. Then it was on to Derna, to destroy the virus at its source. One way or another, this ended now. Caleb's grip tightened on his plasma rifle, knuckles white. He was ready for war. The dropship touched down with a hiss of hydraulics in the cavernous hangar of the Ceres safe house. Caleb stepped out, plasma rifle in hand, scanning the shadowy space. A group of heavily armed figures emerged from the darkness. "Caleb, good to see you," a familiar voice called out. It was Sergeant Tom Nichols, an old friend and fellow TSOT operative. "Likewise, Tom," Caleb replied, clasping Nichols' hand in a firm grip. "What's the situation?" "Colonel Briggs came through for you," Nichols said. "We've got everything you need, weapons, gear, and a stealth shuttle that'll get you to Derna without the Bajorans spotting you." Caleb nodded, a grim smile on his face. "Let's get to work." In a dimly lit interrogation room, Caleb circled Mizar, the captive Bajoran strapped to a chair. Caleb's eyes were hard, his voice low and menacing. "You're going to tell me everything you know about the virus and the facility on Derna. We can do this the easy way or the hard way." Mizar sneered. "I won't betray my people." Caleb leaned in close. "We'll see about that." He nodded to Jack, who injected a syringe of truth serum into Mizar's neck. Mizar's eyes widened, then glazed over. "The virus," Mizar slurred, "developed by Dr. Kira Meru, brilliant geneticist, ruthless." "Where are the samples kept?" Caleb demanded. "Central lab, heavily guarded, layout." Mizar rambled on, spilling details about the facility's defenses and security measures. In the armory, Caleb and his team geared up, checking weapons and strapping on armor. Nichols laid out a holographic map of the Derna facility. "All right, here's the plan," Caleb said, pointing at the map. "We'll approach in the stealth shuttle, land on the far side of the moon. Jack and I will infiltrate the central lab and destroy the virus samples. Nichols, you and your team will plant charges throughout the facility. We'll reduce the whole thing to rubble." Suddenly alarms blared through the safe house. Red lights flashed. "Proximity alert!" Nichols shouted, checking a security monitor. "Bajoran strike force closing fast." Caleb grabbed his rifle. "We need to move now. Get to the..." "First in a mafutu study barataida. Shuttle. Get to the shuttle." Plasma blasts seared the walls as Caleb and his team sprinted for the hangar. Bajoran shock troops poured into the safe house, their boots pounding on the metal deck. Nichols and his men laid down suppressing fire, the air thick with the stench of ozone and scorched flesh. "We'll hold them off, go!" Nichols roared over the din of battle. Caleb hesitated for a split second, then nodded grimly. He knew Nichols would buy them the time they needed, no matter the cost. In the hangar, Mike already had the stealth shuttle prepped and humming. Caleb shoved Mizar into the cargo hold, slamming the door shut. Jack took up position at the shuttle's plasma cannon as Caleb leapt into the co-pilot's seat. "Punch it!" Caleb barked. Mike gunned the engines, the force slamming them back into their seats as the shuttle rocketed out of the hangar. In the cargo bay, Mazar slammed against the bulkhead, still dazed from the interrogation drugs. Behind them, the safe house receded, now swarming with Bajoran troops. Plasma blasts chased the shuttle as it tore through the asteroid's thin atmosphere. Caleb's gut clenched as he thought of Nichols and his men, still fighting against impossible odds. "Incoming transmission from Colonel Briggs," Jack called out from the ops station. Caleb punched the comm panel, Briggs's face filling the screen. "Colonel, the safe house has been compromised. Nichols stayed behind to cover our escape. We're en route to Derna now." Briggs nodded, his expression grave. "I know, son. I've been monitoring the situation. TSOC warships are already on their way to Ceres to intercept the Bajoran strike force." "What about Nichols and his men?" "I'll send a rescue team as soon as I can. But right now your priority is stopping that virus. I'm dispatching Captain Sarah Thompson and her team to assist you on Derna." "Understood, sir. We'll get it done." As the transmission ended, Jack's console beeped urgently. "I'm picking up a transmission from the Bajoran fleet. They've discovered our presence on Ceres and are heading to Derna to reinforce the research facility." Caleb's jaw tightened. They were running out of time. He turned to Mike, his voice steely. "Push this crate for all she's worth. We have to reach Derna before the Bajorans can dig in." Mike nodded, his fingers flying over the controls. The shuttle surged forward, racing towards the distant moon. As they approached, a massive energy signature bloomed on the sensors, emanating from Derna's far side. "What the hell is that?" Jack muttered, frowning at his readouts. Caleb leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "Looks like some kind of military installation, and a big one." "The Bajorans must have been building it in secret. It's not on any of our intel reports." A cold knot formed in Caleb's gut. If the Bajorans had a hidden base on Derna, there was no telling what other surprises they might have in store. He focused on the looming shape of the moon, his mind racing. One way or another, he would find a way to destroy that virus and keep Earth safe. No matter what the Bajorans threw at him, no matter the odds, humanity was counting on him. Failure was not an option. The stealth shuttle touched down in a narrow valley, its black hull blending seamlessly with the shadows. Caleb and his team disembarked, weapons ready, scanning the barren landscape. In the distance, the massive Bajoran installation loomed, a fortress of gleaming metal and bristling defenses. As they made their way towards the facility, a group of figures emerged from the rocks ahead. Caleb tensed, finger on the trigger, then relaxed as he recognized the familiar TSOC armor. It was Captain Sarah Thompson and her team. "Caleb, glad you made it," Thompson said, clasping his hand in a firm grip. "We've been scouting the installation. It's a command center, heavily fortified. Coordinates the Bajoran fleet, oversees the virus research." Caleb nodded, taking in the information. "What about defenses?" "Energy shield. Impenetrable to direct assault," Thompson replied. "Only way in is to disable the generator from inside." Caleb's mind raced, formulating a plan. He turned to his team. "All right, listen up. We need to infiltrate that command center and take out the shield generator. That'll give Thompson's forces an opening to attack, create a diversion while Jack and I hit the research facility." He looked at Thompson. "You up for a little mayhem?" She grinned. "Always." Caleb, Jack, and Lieutenant Alex Chen, Thompson's tech specialist, broke away from the main group. They circled around to the installation's south side, where Chen had identified a hidden service tunnel. The entrance was concealed behind a rocky outcropping. Chen made quick work of the security lock, and they slipped inside, the tunnel's dim lighting casting eerie shadows on the walls. "All right, Chen, you're on generator duty. Jack and I will make for the control room. Keep comms tight and stay alert." Chen nodded, checking her weapon. "Roger that." They split up, Chen heading down a side passage while Caleb and Jack pressed forward. The tunnel opened into a maintenance area, a labyrinth of pipes and machinery. Bajoran soldiers patrolled the catwalks above. Caleb held up a fist, signaling Jack to halt. He pointed to the nearest guard, then to himself. Jack nodded, moving into position. Caleb crept forward, hugging the shadows. As the soldier passed, he struck, wrapping an arm around the Bajoran's throat and dragging him into the darkness. A muffled struggle, then silence. Jack moved up, dispatching another guard with brutal efficiency. They worked their way through the complex, a trail of unconscious bodies in their wake. At the control room door, Caleb paused, listening for movement inside. Hearing none, he nodded to Jack. They burst in, weapons sweeping the room. Clear. Caleb holstered his rifle and moved to the main console. His fingers flew over the keys, breaking through the security protocols. Files flashed across the screen, a trove of Bajoran secrets. Jack, check this out. Dr. Kira Meru, the lead scientist on the virus. Turns out she's a big shot in the Bajoran military, too. Jack leaned in, scanning the data. And look at this. The Bajorans have been working with a rogue faction in the Galactic Federation. They're using the virus to destabilize human space. Caleb's jaw tightened. This was bigger than they thought. He downloaded the files, the evidence they needed to expose the Bajoran plot. Suddenly, an alarm blared through the complex. Red lights flashed. "Jen, tell me that's you," Caleb barked into his comm. "Shield generator is down, but they've locked me out of the system. I can't stop the alarm." Caleb cursed. "Get out of there, Chen. Rendezvous at the shuttle." He turned to Jack. "We're blown. Let's move." Explosions rocked the command center. Alarms wailed. Red emergency lights flashed. Caleb, Jack, and Chen sprinted down smoke-filled corridors. They ducked into alcoves, narrowly avoiding plasma blasts from pursuing Bajoran soldiers. "Chen, get that damn door open," Caleb barked. Chen rushed to the sealed blast door, fingers flying across the access panel. The door groaned open. Caleb and Jack laid down suppressing fire, dropping Bajorans with pinpoint shots. "Go, go!" Caleb yelled. They burst into the hangar bay. Bajoran fighters screamed overhead, engines roaring. Outside, the sounds of heavy fighting echoed as Thompson's forces assaulted the base. A plasma bolt seared past Caleb's head. He whirled, firing back. More Bajorans poured into the hangar, weapons blazing. Caleb, Jack, and Chen scrambled for cover behind supply crates. Plasma scorched metal. Explosions shook the deck. "Shit!" Chen cried out, collapsing. Blood poured from a wound in her side. Her face paled. Caleb dragged her behind the crates. "You're going to be okay," Caleb said, applying pressure to the wound. "Just hang on." Across the hangar, Sergeant Reeves sprinted towards them, dodging plasma fire. He slid into cover beside them. "I'll take care of her," Reeves said, pulling out a med kit. "You two need to get to that research facility, now." Caleb hesitated, torn. Chen gripped his arm, her eyes fierce. "Go," she hissed through gritted teeth. "Stop that virus. I'll be fine." Caleb nodded grimly. He squeezed her shoulder, then turned to Jack. "Let's move." They dashed across the hangar, plasma bolts sizzling past. Ahead, a Bajoran shuttle sat unguarded. Caleb and Jack leapt aboard, sealing the hatch. Jack slid into the pilot's seat, hands flying over the controls. The engines roared to life. "Hang on!" Jack yelled. The shuttle rocketed out of the hangar, G-forces slamming Caleb back into his seat. Bajoran fighters screeched past, cannons flashing. Jack wrenched the controls, sending the shuttle into a stomach-churning dive. The fighters pursued, plasma streaking by the viewports. Jack jinked and weaved, pushing the shuttle to its limits. Canyons and valleys rushed past in a blur. The fighters closed in, cannons hammering the shuttle's shields. Alarms blared. The hull shuddered under the onslaught. "Shields failing," Jack shouted over the din. "We can't take much more of this." Ahead, a narrow ravine loomed. Jack gritted his teeth, aiming for the gap. Plasma bolts seared the canyon walls. The shuttle shuddered, sparks flying from overloaded consoles. With a bone-jarring impact, they slammed into the canyon floor, skidding and bouncing. The fighters overshot them, vanishing into the distance. Caleb and Jack clambered out of the smoking wreckage, battered but alive. In the distance, the research facility loomed, a stark metal structure amidst the barren landscape. They set off at a run, weapons ready. Using Mizar's intel, they slipped inside through a maintenance hatch. Dim corridors stretched out before them, eerily quiet. Caleb consulted his wrist computer, the facility schematic glowing on the display. He motioned to Jack, indicating the route to the central lab. They moved out, shadows flickering in the emergency lighting. Suddenly a figure darted out from a side passage. Caleb and Jack whirled, weapons snapping up. They froze. Dr. Kira Meru stood before them, a sleek pistol in one hand, a containment case in the other. Her eyes glinted with cold determination. "Drop your weapons," she ordered, voice sharp. "You're too late. The virus is already on its way to Earth." Caleb's grip tightened on his rifle, knuckles white. A cold knot formed in his gut. The stakes had just gotten a whole lot higher. Meru's face twisted in a cruel smile. "You've lost, human." She tapped a command into her wrist computer. Suddenly the lab's containment pods hissed open. 6 hulking figures emerged, eyes glowing an eerie red. Genetically enhanced Bajoran super soldiers, bred to be the perfect virus carriers. They charged, moving with inhuman speed and strength. Caleb and Jack opened fire, plasma bolts sizzling through the air. The soldiers barely flinched, their bodies absorbing the hits. They slammed into the TSOC operatives, hurling them across the room. Caleb rolled to his feet, activating the plasma blades built into his suit. The twin blades crackled to life, casting a blue glow. He met the soldiers head-on, blades flashing. He ducked under a crushing blow, slashing across a soldier's chest. The blade cut deep, but the wound sealed almost instantly, the soldier's enhanced healing factor kicking in. Across the room, Jack grappled with 2 soldiers, using every dirty trick in the book to stay alive. He jabbed a plasma grenade into a soldier's open mouth, then kicked him away. The grenade detonated, blasting the soldier's head apart. Caleb whirled, burying his blades in a soldier's neck. The soldier staggered, then ripped the blades free, its flesh knitting back together. Caleb cursed, realizing they couldn't win this fight through conventional means. "Jack, we need a bottleneck," he yelled, ducking a flurry of punches. Jack nodded, already moving. He primed a string of plasma charges, then tossed them at the lab's support pillars. The charges detonated in a chain of blasts, bringing the ceiling down in a cascade of metal and debris. The soldiers were momentarily buried, buying them precious seconds. Caleb's eyes darted around, searching for Meru. He spotted her sprinting down a side corridor. The virus case clutched to her chest. He charged after her, leaping over piles of rubble. He couldn't let her escape, not with the virus. He chased her through the facility's winding halls, the sounds of Jack's battle with the soldiers fading behind him. Meru was fast, enhanced like her creations, but Caleb was driven by desperation, by the knowledge of what would happen if he failed. They burst into the hangar bay, Meru making a beeline for a sleek transport ship. Caleb put on a burst of speed, closing the gap. Meru leapt aboard the ship, the engines roaring to life. Caleb didn't hesitate. He jumped, catching the edge of the boarding ramp, just as the ship lifted off. The ramp sealed shut, the rush of the engines deafening. Caleb clung to the ship's exterior, wind whipping at him as they hurtled out of the hangar. He gritted his teeth, pulling himself hand over hand towards the cockpit. If he could just reach Meru, force her to land. The ship banked hard, nearly throwing him free. He caught a glimpse of another ship rising from the facility, Jack at the controls. Plasma blasts streaked past as Jack opened fire, trying to disable Meru's engines. Meru jinked and weaved, sending her ship into a dizzying spiral. Caleb's grip started to slip, his muscles screaming. With a final, desperate heave, he lunged for the cockpit hatch. He punched the emergency release, the hatch blowing open. He hauled himself inside, slamming Meru against the controls. The ship careened wildly, alarms shrieking. Caleb grappled with Meru, trying to wrest the virus case from her grasp. She fought like a wild animal, clawing and biting. "Why?" Caleb snarled, slamming her into the bulkhead. "Why help the Federation destroy humanity?" Meru laughed, a mad, vicious sound. You fool, the Federation isn't trying to destroy you. They're trying to control you. Caleb's blood ran cold. What are you talking about? The virus isn't meant to kill. It's meant to subjugate. The Federation plans to use it to bring your people to heel, to make you their servants, an army of human slaves, ready to conquer the galaxy at their whim. Caleb reeled back, stunned by the revelation. The Federation, humanity's supposed allies, had been plotting their downfall all along, and now they were on the verge of seeing their twisted plan realized. He looked out the viewport, seeing Jack's ship still in pursuit. They had to end this here and now, or humanity would suffer a fate worse than extinction. They would become puppets, enslaved to an alien power. Caleb turned back to Meru, a cold resolve settling over him. One way or another he would stop this virus, he would save his people. No matter the cost? You fool, Meru spat. The virus was never just about humanity. It's the key to controlling the entire Galactic Federation. Caleb's grip tightened on the ship's controls. What are you talking about? Meru laughed, a cold, mirthless sound. The Overseer's plan. They intend to unleash the virus on key Federation worlds, bringing them to their knees. Comply or die, that's the choice they'll face. A chill ran down Caleb's spine. The scope of the threat had just expanded beyond anything he'd imagined. It wasn't just Earth at risk, but the entire galaxy. Who is this Overseer? Caleb demanded. You'll never find them, Meru sneered. The Overseer is a ghost, a shadow pulling the strings from within the Federation itself. Caleb's mind raced. He had to get this information to Colonel Briggs to warn the Federation before it was too late. But first, he had to secure Meru and the virus. Wrenching the ship's controls, Caleb sent them hurtling back towards Derna's surface. Jack's ship followed close behind, weapons trained on Meru's craft. They touched down near the smoldering ruins of the Bajoran command center. Caleb hauled Meru from the cockpit, locking her in a set of plasma restraints. Jack and Thompson's team surrounded them, weapons at the ready. We've got her, Caleb said. And the virus samples, any word on the TSOC fleet? Thompson nodded. They've secured Ceres and are en route. ETA 30 minutes. Good. We need to get Meru into a secure holding cell and prepare the virus for transport back to Earth. I need to contact Colonel Briggs now. Caleb strode into the command center, stepping over the bodies of fallen Bajorans. He activated the comm system, inputting Briggs' encrypted frequency. The colonel's face flickered onto the screen. Caleb, what's the situation? Sir, we have Meru and the virus in custody, but there's something else. Meru claims this plot goes beyond the Bajorans. She says a rogue faction within the Federation, led by someone called the Overseer, is behind it all. Briggs' face darkened. The Overseer, are you certain? That's what she says. Colonel, if this is true... I know, the implications are dire. Briggs leaned forward, his expression grave. Caleb, I've uncovered evidence that suggests the Overseer is a high-ranking member of Federation intelligence, and that their faction has infiltrated the highest levels of our government. Caleb's blood ran cold. The enemy was within. He thought of the billions of lives at stake, not just on Earth, but across the galaxy. Sir, we have to stop them, whatever it takes. Briggs nodded. Agreed. I'll warn the Federation leadership, but we need to act fast. I have a lead on the Overseer's location, Babylon Prime. The Federation's central space station? The very same. I believe that's where the Overseer is hiding, pulling the strings from the shadows. Caleb's grip tightened on the console. Then that's where we're going. My team will infiltrate Babylon Prime and find this bastard before they can unleash hell on the galaxy. I'll send you the necessary clearance codes and credentials. But Caleb, be careful. If the Overseer realizes we're onto them, there's no telling what they might do. Understood, sir. We'll get it done. One way or another, this ends now. The screen went dark. Caleb turned to his team, a cold determination settling over him. They had a new mission, one that would take them into the very heart of the Federation. To stop a monster hiding in plain sight. to save not just humanity, but the entire galaxy from an unspeakable fate. Failure was not an option. Caleb checked his weapon, the weight familiar in his hands. "Gear up," he said, his voice hard. "We're going to Babylon Prime." Caleb and Jack crept through the dimly lit corridors of Babylon Prime, their weapons at the ready. The station's sleek metallic walls seemed to close in around them, the hum of machinery echoing in the stillness. Suddenly, a group of black-clad figures emerged from the shadows, plasma rifles raised, the Overseer's agents. Caleb reacted instantly, diving for cover as plasma bolts sizzled past. Jack opened fire, his shots finding their mark. 2 agents crumpled. Caleb lunged, his plasma blade flashing. He cut down another agent, then whirled to face the next. They fought their way through the station, corridor by corridor, level by level. Agents fell before their onslaught. Caleb hacked terminals, his fingers flying over holographic interfaces, overriding security lockouts. At last they reached the central command hub. The doors hissed open. Caleb and Jack charged in, weapons ready, and froze. There, standing before them, was Colonel Briggs. "Hello, Caleb," Briggs said calmly. "I've been expecting you." "You," Caleb breathed. "You're the Overseer." Briggs smiled. "I am, and I want you to join me." He walked forward, hands spread. "The Federation is rotten, Caleb. Corrupt to its core. Only through strength can we bring about change. Together, you and I could reshape the galaxy, make things right." Caleb shook his head, his rifle never wavering. "Not like this, not with fear and intimidation." "Don't be naive," Briggs snapped. "Power is the only currency that matters, and with this virus we can have that power." He held up a vial, the liquid inside glinting. Caleb's heart raced. The virus, it was here. "I won't let you do this," Caleb said, his voice hard. "I can't." Briggs' face darkened. "Then you leave me no choice." He moved faster than Caleb could react. The vial shattered on the floor. Virus particles filled the air. Caleb lunged, tackling Briggs. They grappled, fists and elbows flying. Caleb felt the virus entering his system, his lungs burning, but he couldn't stop. He had to end this. With a final, desperate effort, Caleb slammed Briggs to the ground. The colonel went still, unconscious. Caleb staggered back, his vision blurring. He could feel the virus ravaging his body. His strength fled. He collapsed. Jack was at his side in an instant, cradling his head. "Caleb, stay with me," Jack pleaded. "We'll get you help, we'll—" Caleb gripped Jack's arm, his breath rattling. "No time," he whispered. "The virus, you have to destroy it, all of it." Tears streamed down Jack's face. "I will, I promise." Caleb nodded, a faint smile on his lips. "I know you will. You'll carry on the fight. Protect the innocent. Be the leader. I know you can be." His words trailed off, his eyes closed. He went still in Jack's arms. Jack bowed his head, grief and rage warring within him. Caleb was gone, his best friend, his brother in arms. But his mission remained. With a final, gentle touch, Jack laid Caleb down. Then he stood, squaring his shoulders. He had a promise to keep. For Caleb, for the galaxy. Jack strode from the command hub, his steps heavy but determined. He had a Federation to save. And a legacy to uphold. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.